Now, in this lesson, we're looking at a very important escape. I mean, arguably one of the most important escapes in all of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And the reason it's so important is because it just teaches so much more than just a way to get out of the mount. It teaches a relationship between our elbows and our knees. It teaches better hip movement. It teaches you about hooks. So there's a lot in this particular move. Although right now at this level we'll be basically talking about the one application of it, and that is to escape from the mount. It's called the elbow escape, and we're looking at a situation where I have my partner mounted on me and I can't bridge and roll him off. He's just got, maybe I can't control his arms, maybe his base is too good and shifting his weight. So instead of taking him off, I'm going to put him into my guard and then go to work from there. So essentially what we're doing here is we're doing it like this. My partner's on top, and what I need to do is get my elbow and get it on the ground in between his leg and my body, so that when his hands are on the ground and I'm going to move away from his leg with my hip movements, his leg can't follow me because of my elbow. All right, so if I don't have my elbow there and I move my hip away, David's knees are going to follow me. So I need to make sure that I get my elbow in. Now sometimes you can't get the elbow in because he's very tight. I'll put my elbow there, attack his knee with my hip to the left, and then move my hip back, and before his knee can come back, get my elbow in. So you watch that little lateral movement. David will just stay up so you can see it. My hip's going to go out and back, and before his knee comes back, my elbow goes in. See that little movement there? So some people go, well, I can't get my elbow in, I'll just do it anyway. It's no use doing that. So I need to get my elbow in. Hip out, back, now my elbow's in. Now his hands are on the ground, and I hip away. Another way I can think of this is I'm attacking this leg with my butt to spread his legs. That gives me space to get my knee through there. Once, that knee doesn't have to come all the way out. I just get my knee through. Once my knee's through there, we just rotate completely to the other side, and then his knee's on the ground there. If necessary, repeat the same movement there, get that knee out, rotate, and now I'm in a situation where my legs are out. Now essentially, this is 3 movements. I mean, a minimum of 3. I mean, it may take way more. We're starting like this. We get one leg flat, sideways, and bent on the ground. And the single most common mistake with elbow escape is to start with your knee up. And you can be pulling your knee all day long and it hits the back of his thigh and will never come through. So the second someone's mounting on me, my leg goes flat. So we usually drop it in the center line of our body. Flat. It has to be flat on the floor. Now you watch, if David's mounting on top of me here and my knee's up and his leg's tucked in under there, boy, is it hard to get that leg out. Okay, but if my leg's flat on the ground like that, now look at it, he can't tuck his leg in. And in fact he tries to, but I can just push my knee out and it's really messing up his base. But I can only do that if my knee is down. If my knee is even up an inch, his leg's under there. So it's very important as someone's mounting you, or when they've mounted you, my first order of business is to take that leg, get it over, out of the way, flat on the ground, and get sideways. Then I'll get my elbow in. He can hold that nice and tight, that's fine. I move my hip away, get my knee poking out, and then rotate to my right side. When I do that, notice that that leg popped out. You may well have to repeat the whole process on the other side. And that's fine, but more often than not, once one leg's out, you can start to push with your hands, get your other leg out, and put it in your guard. You can also elect not to put him right in the guard. Later on we'll be talking about, we mentioned earlier on with our hooks. We could just dump him onto our hooks where we can start lifting him and sweeping him with various different hook sweeps. That's even easier. So let's look at that. So instead of taking my leg all the way out and putting David in a closed guard, same thing. Leg goes flat, on the side, hip away. I can just get my knee through and leap there. That's all I need to do. Turn to the other side, now David's on my hooks. And we've got a whole hook guard, 12 or 15 different kinds of sweeps and setups that we can do from here without the need to go to closed guard first. But the basic movement in and of itself would be at least 3 movements. One is I'm going to have my leg flat, elbow in, first hip escape. The first hip escape gets that first knee out. Then I rotate That leg's come all the way out, traps the half guard, trap one of his legs. Second knee comes in, hip escape. Rotate back again, that leg pops out. So it's kind of 3 movements, but you notice I also cover distance. We don't do it on the spot as if there's a wall behind our head. We try to move backwards and gain some ground. So watching one more time here. David's on top. So 1, leg flat, sideways, elbow in. I move my hip away, get my knee out. His other leg's still fine. I rotate to the opposite side, but this leg will come out. Trap the leg, or I'm just hooking this so he can't pass this side of my guard. Move my hip away, my other knee comes out, still not all the way out, that's fine. Just rotate back to this hip. My right leg came free, and I've locked him into my closed guard, and we can start to work our attacks from there. Tremendously important escape. It teaches you relationships between your elbows and your knees. You see a lot of people, a very common warm-up is the hip escape up and down the mat. You know, people do this in BJJ all the time, hip escape up and down the mat. But most commonly it's just people moving their butts, and all they're doing is cleaning the mat. When we do that hip escape, what we want to do is get that elbow locked into the hip and run it off the end of our knee. And that's exactly, then what we're doing is replicating the dynamics of the elbow escape. And we're basically pushing their leg from here and getting their leg down below our knee, sitting on our guard or on our hooks. So it's really important that we, you know, maximize our training time, and when we're just doing the hip escapes or anything like that to warm up, we're thinking it through. What are we actually doing with our bodies?
John, could we just get for the camera with your feet in this direction? Just that laying the leg flat, since that's so important. You can see how my feet are in tight, exactly like they should be, and look at how John gets his leg in between my feet. That's the most important thing to start this from working. Anything short of that, he'll just be turning on top of my leg and it won't work. He's got to get that leg flat. Exactly.
If David's legs were crossed over, physically crossed, I'd use my feet, come up on top of his foot and push them apart, open them out, get a leg flat. Once the leg's flat there, we're out of there. We've got loads and loads of space. That's the key to the move. The first key is getting that leg dead flat on the deck.
So as you practice this move, one drill you should be doing is the hip escape move across the mat and doing it exactly the way John showed it. You can't do that enough times. Moving across the mat, it's a great warm-up, and it really teaches you to get your hip moving. And as John said, it's useful for this technique, but it's so useful in all of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. One thing I just wanted to point out real quickly, too, is in the defense, we're not ignoring the fact that you could be arm-barred or choked. When John is on top, sometimes the best defense is for me to start moving, to not lay here and relax and let him get settled into position so he can start his attacks. I'm immediately moving. He's having to go essentially defensive to stabilize his position. So I'm not too worried about arm bar or choke here. I'm not extending my arm at all. My hands are still in good choke defensive position, and he's not busy choking me. Why? Because he's busy trying to maintain the position. And that's where the initiative counts a lot in escaping.